What's going on, Soul Tribe? And welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and I hope you're getting ready to tackle this week. We're gonna take this week head on. I mean, this has been a lot of talk that's been going on, about a lot of build up going on this week, and hopefully there's been a lot of mindful manifestation on your part too. Hopefully you've been setting intentions there. But we know we have Mars that's going to be squaring Saturn, a lot of Saturn activity. Mars that's squaring Saturn, Venus is opposing Saturn, Big Papa and Saturn are going to be squaring to Jupiter, and so we got a lot of big energies that are going to be happening this week. A lot of stuff that may be going on, and again, and collectively and individually. So, but before we get into that, if this is our first time meeting, my name is Justin. I'm a practicing astrologer, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Where on this channel, amongst other things, I talk about the weekly transits and how we can work with these energies and kind of bring the heavens down to the earth and kind of come about this in a grounded approach where we're happening to life and life is not happening to us. That's the goal here. So I like that. I think there we go. But also, if you are wanting to, before we get into this, if you're wanting to know how these transits are working more personally in your chart, want to look for some guidance, I have book a free consultation down there with me. We can discuss what areas are going on. We can discuss what services that I could possibly provide that may work for you there. I also am starting up this really cool new moon intention group. It's called the Lunar Mansion. The first group is going to be on September 2nd, and I'm going to be starting up these monthly groups. And there are going to be different slots for different times available to sign up for you or sign up for you there. So if that's something that you wanted to do, we're setting manifestation, we're setting intentions with the moon, we're working with the different areas of your chart, strengthening that stuff, really being mindful and tending to the garden that is you. And they're going to be, I have a bunch of ideas with this. I'm going to be posting some various kind of news for us to go outside and go see some things, get out there and marvel at the heavens above and all types of stuff. Get into like nakshatras, know how the moon is working with you personally. So whole lot of cool stuff, a bunch of lunar shenanigans guaranteed. So if that's something that you're interested in, there's a link just to join and sign up for that group. Or again, if you have any questions, book a free consultation down with me in the description box below. But let's get into this thing, because I'm going to be covering the week of August 15th through the 21st, and starting off on a Jupiter day, the 15th of August at about 10:30 p.m. and that's going to be Pacific time. Mars is going to be forming a square with Saturn retrograde at 17 degrees and 42 minutes. Mars is in Gemini and Saturn is in Pisces. Now, a couple of things with this. This is the malefics that are talking. Mars and Saturn in traditional. They can bring, where, of course, they can bring growth, but they can also bring some challenges. So we want to be mindful and keep in mind that everyone's chart is lit up right now. So we want to be kind to ourselves and be kind to others, especially for those of you, if you have high mutable energies. I'm looking at you, Sag, Gemini, Virgo, or Pisces. This is activating you or maybe working with you more closely. So pay attention to these points where this mutable energy is at. It's good. They're all happening around this 7-degree point here. That's where they're going to be this exact. So I would say anywhere between 15 to about 19 degrees of the mutable signs. Look at that, because those points are being very activated. My partner actually has Mercury at 16 degrees, and this has been stressful. It's just been a lot that's been going on in his mind. Being that he's a Virgo sun too. Sun in Virgo is just kind of adding Mars is in Virgo. You see what's going on there. But he's got fifth house stuff. So hopefully, I'm thinking good fortune. It's going to be a bit of a tough time, but it'll be abundance at the end. I actually just sent him off to the beach and with affirmations. And so that's the thing I would say to do. Send off blessings, affirmations to one another, because we all need it right now. And I feel with Saturn retrograde, you may be at this place right now with Mars and Gemini. Maybe you're at a crossroads here. You needed to do this, needed to do that. And maybe you're having troubles holding the dream as far as like which future makes sense. You're trying to get in touch with that intuition, that Pisces energy, see where the energies are trying to flow. But maybe the mind, Gemini, is kind of functioning weird because, it's not functioning as strongly. Because considering too, the dispositor of Mars is Mercury, who's just getting ready to, in a few days, is getting ready to form an inferior conjunction with the sun. And where conjunctions can be great, Mercury is still in this kind of slow phase right now. It's not operating at its peak there, considering that it's so close to the sun, and it won't be out of that energy from the sun till about probably to about 15 degrees or so. Once Mercury kind of clears that set and then starts to go direct and pick things back up, there may be a bit of confusion at this time, but we'll get to that next. But if you're having troubles kind of maybe grounding, it's like, well, should I go this way, should I go that way? Gemini, I would say discuss this with someone. That could be something where weigh out the pros and cons with someone who's going to help you really kind of see being things for what they are, really kind of help you be objective in this. Have you considered planning for this and that? Are you able to, like, let's say for example, maybe you want to start up a business, but you can't necessarily quit your job because you got bills that you got to pay, you got food that you got to do. So it's like, well, maybe I can do this sort of thing, or maybe I can look into this kind of resource, or maybe there's some sort of this sort of support that can maybe provide for me. Saturn is one that maybe can deny if you haven't thought things through. But if you come with a game plan, Saturn's just like, okay, no, we can work with that. And that's where it's like, we got to come at this place where we're needing to be a little flexible, maybe with the dream right now. Maybe we had this vision and it's just like, maybe you thought that you wanted to, let's say, maybe move to a new house at a certain time, but certain delays come up, you need to move this for a little bit longer. So it's like, in the meantime, it's just like, instead of maybe shipping everything, I want to start shipping things slowly, something along those lines, just so that you're not so, maybe, because that could be, I'm just thinking just like what it could be some sort of examples that are coming up. Well, I'll give you a real world example. So for me, Saturn is retrograding through my 8th house right now. So, the house of death, inheritances. I actually just sent a text to someone I have. Family member actually just got to go back on chemo not too long ago. So, that's something. Of course, death is something that is, it's not, of course, not a desirable topic, the 8th house, but it's something that you have to think about. And it's just like making sure, just like, how am I leaving my relationships? It does get you thinking about those deeper things. What am I going to be leaving behind? What sort of debts do I need to get paid off, which I'm working on getting that all cleared off. So that's a bonus, so I'm kind of Saturn's pleased there. we're starting off well, but there's some other things too, pulling in some additional resources for Mars, which is transiting through my 11th house for my future. What am I trying to build? How am I going to balance all of these things, as far as like these ideas and things that I have, and how do I keep that dream going? Well, I keep them through vision boards and setting intentions with the moon, and just like keeping that, okay, how can I moon group? that was one of my things. It's like, okay, I can keep that going. That's one source of income, and then do this sort of thing, and then do this sort of thing. So that's what the energies are kind of asking us to do. Looking to what like, it's like, okay, like, I've been in a situation before. There's been heavy mutable energy before, where I've had to kind of think on my toes and do this thing. For, luckily I got my moons in Gemini, so I'm always just kind of having to be mutable, considering all the fixed energy that I have in my chart. But this is the time I do feel like, be mindful of, just like, pay attention to considering both options, before we're just leaping. Maybe don't have that conversation, that breakup with your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, and think that your friend is going to be able to put you up. You have this dream, Saturn and Pisces, and then turns out like, oh, actually, I can't do that for you because I have this going on right now and there's no space for you. And then there you are. So then what are you going to do? Or, telling your boss that this sucks, this place sucks, you suck, and then you're like, oh, this person happens to know everyone in your field and can get you blacklisted. That's just an extreme example. We're Saturning in Pisces. But that's just some things, be mindful about kind of quick stuff here, about trying to force things along. Just kind of plan ahead. This doesn't have to be any sort of like end of the world things where we need to be super stressed, but we do, I feel like, need to be adaptable and be just kind to ourselves and be kind to others, to honor what energies are going through you right now, and know that that things are going to change. It's not always going to stay like this, but I do feel two squares. Oh, and let me mention too, squares are aspects where the planets are 90 degrees apart from each other. They're a Martian aspect. So Mars in the mix. They promote this sense of action, this sense of tension, this friction. Something needs to move, when we're talking about this. And Mars just had a conjunction with Pisces. So this is, look at what was going on with you when Mars had that conjunction with Pisces. So now we're kind of at a head here. Did things turn out how you visioned, or how you may have thought there? How did that differ from where I'm actually kind of thinking about what I was thinking, or what I was sort of meditating on with Mars in Pisces. It was actually similar, probably around the eclipse time. So, what was going on for you around that time, and how has that kind of come to fruition? How have things come to a head? How have you needed to pivot, and change to some sort of thing? So, just some stuff to think about. The malefics, they don't have to be where they're just effing things up, but you do just have to be mindful when they are, especially when they're in a stressful aspect like this, when they're in a tougher conversation. You do want to be mindful with them, and pay attention too, to find out, if you have like a daytime versus a nighttime chart. There's a cool technique that I've been reading about in what Astrology book, Demetra George, fantastic book, fantastic. But if you to find out which malefic is kind of like your bud, kind of like the one that's sort of working for you, see if you have a daytime chart like myself, Saturn's your buddy. So that's even changed how I'm looking at my Saturn placement all different. My Saturn's really strong. So imagine like, hey, Saturn. Saturn. He's actually trying my sun right now, so that's really exciting. But then when I see Mars shenanigans, that's, taking place in my moon, and where my moon's at and things, are just like Mars. But so pay attention to that. Find out what malefic is working for you and working with you. And the same goes for the benefics too. But I mean, they're gonna bring abundance, whatever they're doing. Now let's talk about the luminary and Mercury. Because on Sunday, speaking of sun, the 18th of what month are we? August. At about 6:58 p.m., the sun is going to be forming the sun's going to be forming Mercury will be forming an inferior conjunction with the sun at 26 degrees and 35 minutes of Leo. Now, the nice thing with this conjunction, even though Mercury is a bit weaker in this, because conjunctions are when the energies are fusing together. We have a few of these a year. We have about 5 or 6. Mercury goes retrograde at least 3 to 4, at least 3 times a year, sometimes 4. So we have this conjunction often where we're moving ahead, things are zipping along. You remember after Mercury came retrograde out of Aries, Mercury ran through all of the signs. Mercury just booked it and then kind of comes back, but then when Mercury comes back, Mercury goes real slow. And when we're in the Mercury retrograde, especially coming up to the sun, this is the time to reflect on the light, to reflect on that inner knowing, like that inner being inside. The sun represents our soul energy, And so when Mercury is forming this inferior conjunction, this one is Mercury's at least supported in this because the sun is in its sign of domicile, being in Leo. So there's something that's all this energy that's going on. I don't feel that this has to be where this is a super stressful thing if we just take the moment to slow down and process, to really think that Leo energy, all right, where do I want to invest my energy right now? What will keep me fueled up? What are some things that can keep me sustained while I'm going through this? What do I need to focus? This is kind of like almost like I'm getting like a keeping your head down and just kind of focusing on the task, just kind of doing the work right now. But right now things may seem a bit unclear as far as like to why all these things are happening here, because keep in mind too, considering that Mercury's in the heart of the sun, that Mercury is hidden right now. If you were to look in the sky, you couldn't see Mercury, and that has a big implication, even just on the chart, but even in just when you're thinking astronomically. There's a big deal when you can't see a planet. Where, I can't see Mercury. That's what's going on there? You're already taking a moment to pause. Where it's like Mercury's usually either here or there, but now it's not anywhere. Okay, the sun is trying to tell me something here. The sun is wanting me to kind of go within. There's this thing in this text where it's like, when you go into the chamber of the sun, it's like you're going to the underworld in a sense, and there's a part of you I always picture this as the sun is approaching, as you're getting like within like the combustion of the sun. There's like this old energy that's burning off, and then you're entering this sort of like underworld chamber where you're meeting with your soul self. You're meeting with that higher self. The energy's being disseminated, and then you're kind of going with a renewed, fresh mind here, sort of like an aha type of moment here. That's what I feel, these Sun-Mercury retrogrades or conjunctions can really bring if we're taking the moment to see it. If we're caught up in the storm, then we may miss this, because this is a subtle message. This is coming from source when we're talking about with the sun, and that's where that Saturn energy is being so important here. How do you keep in that flow state? Even when there's sometimes where, I remember living in Chicago, where I'm doing these I'm trying to do meditations. I got the sun is just shining bright. I would sit on this desk, or I'd sit on this little bench thing, and you get focused, and then you got cars honking, you got people cussing, you got just life doing life. And so it's just like, in that, how do you keep that flow state? What does that look like? How do you channel in? Do you need to get some headphones? Do you need to, what does that look like? But I want to talk about too the Sabian symbol for this conjunction, because this is happening at phase 147 of Leo, which is the luminescence of dawn in the eastern sky. And I like this kind of image too, because Mercury, after forming this inferior conjunction, will be rising as a morning star now. So now Mercury will be part of the day. It'll be in the same team as the sun now, because when it's ahead, or technically if you're looking at a chart behind the sun, then it's more so in connection with the moon. But now Mercury will be in connection with the sunlight. So you can see this as the sun, Mercury kind of rising above the horizon in a sense. Mercury's coming with this new light, again, this aha moment. And the keynote for this is the exalting challenge of new opportunities at the threshold of a new cycle. And we are at the threshold of a new cycle. Big Papa and Saturn are forming a square right now. We are at the threshold of a new cycle here. This is a very critical point. Things are changing, and this is just the first of 3 squares that Jupiter and Saturn are going to be forming with one another. So this is just, things are, I feel like, if things seem, let things, it's almost like, I'm picturing like a snow globe. You just kind of, universe is kind of like, ah, and then just set you down. And it's just like, instead of trying to catch all the snow, it's going to come to you. Just let the light codes come down to you. Let them integrate, because in a little bit later, at about 10:53 p.m., Venus is going to be forming a square with Big Papa, and this is going to be happening at 7 degrees and 21 minutes. Venus is in Virgo, and Jupiter is in Gemini. Now, both of them are under the lordship of Mercury, who's in the heart of the sun right now. So Mercury right now, when, it's Mercury can, even though it's still in the conjunction, it's still in that retrograde phase, there still is this warmth that the sun is providing here. I feel when the benefics are in a square with one another, Venus and Jupiter, there's this thing of getting the thing that you needed, but not necessarily what you wanted. You know what I mean? But it's going to pay off in the long run. This could be where, I'm trying to think what would be an example of this. An example's escaping me at the moment, but It's almost like that thing, where I'm just thinking of as like when you're a kid, where you see you want all this cake, you want all this, you haven't had anything to eat yet, and it's like I want this cake. It's like, well, first, why don't you get some real food? Why don't you get some substance? Because if you just fill up on cake, you're going to be hungry just an hour later, and you're not going to feel as well. It's something like along those lines. So like, let's get the more kind of fruits. Let's get some actual food first. That's what I feel like this is gonna kind of feel like here. These things that are happening may feel, and again, it's gonna be happening differently for everybody. As you see, it's not all. It's happening place in a tough house for me. It's gonna be happening in different places for everybody. But I do feel collectively it's gonna take us a minute to slow down. That could be one gift, where we can sometimes get to this place where, oh, I don't have time to do this, or I don't have time to do that, to take care of myself, to do X and Y and Z. Then this could be that kind of like forced sit down in a sense. Actually, okay, here's an example of how this can maybe look. There's this waitress this restaurant, we've been friends for about years now, since we lived in Washington. She's fantastic. She always take care of it. We're on a texting basis. It's really nice. She just had surgery not too long ago. And she was saying, when she was telling us about it, she's like, I thought that I would be afraid settling this, but she's like, I haven't taken a moment for myself for years. I've just been going, going, going. I don't have a lot of family left and all these things. And she's like, now it's just giving me an opportunity to slow down. And it's like, that could be how this could show up. It's like, you would think like, oh my gosh, this surgery is terrifying, but actually it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And then she went through the whole thing, and now it actually turned out to be more serious than she thought. And then everything turned out well. They were able to catch everything in time, get everything all situated, and now she's just booking. She's fresh. She's a Mercury in direct. Energy is fast, and she's moving that Aries sun. But that could be how this Venus square Jupiter energy could come up for you. So, seeing the duality of things, seeing the blessings of, again, not maybe what you wanted, but maybe what you needed. This could be even like a truth. Maybe this Venus in Virgo, it's like, maybe it's like, as much as I love that cake, it's the cake's not seeming to love me. It maybe loves my handles, but you know what I mean? It might get to where it's like, okay, I might need to maybe let this be like maybe when I'm having a Venus transit, I'll treat myself. I always love doing that. When I actually have a Venus conjunction getting ready, or not a Venus conjunction, Sun is getting ready to come up on my Venus here soon. So I'm like, what am I going to do to treat myself? Maybe I will get a little treat, or I might do this. I might get like a little expensive chocolate or something, spend something on like maybe get some. I was listening to a reader there talk about, when's the last time you bought some saffron? I know it costs like $10,000, but maybe I'll get some saffron. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with it, but I'll figure something out. So, but that could be how this can maybe come up for you. So, see, it doesn't have to be all light and crazy. But now Moon Day, depending on how you wake up on Moon Day, might depend on that, because this one's going to be kind of a more kind of action-packed day too. And keep in mind too, this isn't just gonna like all just dump on you like immediately when this stuff happens. This energy builds up. So that's just thinking about, okay, knowing where this is activating, what am I gonna do with this? It's not that this is stuff. Things can happen if we just like don't set an intention. If we're just like, I'm gonna ride the wave, things are going to, and I mean, even that is even in a place you're making a choice. So we have more choice in this than we realize. Life, again, doesn't have to just like happen to us. But on Moon Day, the 19th of August, at about 1:29 a.m., Venus is going to be forming an opposition with Saturn retrograde at 17 degrees and 29 minutes. Venus in Virgo, Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Now, when I'm thinking, one thing that kind of popped up with me with this, in the Thema Mundi chart, Virgo and Pisces fall in the 3rd and the 9th house. So that's like for me, that's like the God and Goddess axis. There's this divination that's involved with this. And so what I feel with this is, what practices, you have this thing that you're wanting to attract. this Venus energy. Maybe you're wanting to become an opera singer. You want to be this recognized, do all this stuff, but you have to, in order to do that, you're going to need to maybe put your stuff out there. You're going to need to get a name for yourself, like work with, get into different collaborations, find maybe someone who can put your stuff out there. So it's just like, what are the different things that you need to do to keep this dream alive? You got this download from source. It may seem fantastical, in your mind, but you can manifest it. And I feel like it's not doing it in a place where you're expecting this perfection. Just letting a practice, it's a ritual that you're developing. The third house can be, and that's where Virgo gets into that, that routine aspect that though you apply with Virgo, that sacred rites. But there's a mystical side that comes with Virgo. That if you put enough practice into a thing that you can manifest that higher mind. The beautiful thing about the Virgo Pisces axis is that Pisces allows access, full flow. Pisces gets us into that flow state again, that mutable water where we can take the emotions and move them and get those downloads, really feel those feelings, that imagination flow, tap into that oneness. And Virgo is the one that helps them to, okay, that's great, your imagination is wonderful, but we can't see it. So Virgo makes it so that you can see it. It manifests it in every day so that everyone can benefit from this thing. So that's what I feel this is going to come up right now. There's going to be, you have this thing that you're wanting to do, and so how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? There's going to be a clear oppositions, put up a wall. But I find that with Saturn, Saturn, interestingly enough, I feel really kind of promotes relationships, kind of promotes, like, you can't do everything by yourself. There's certain things that you just don't know, like I'm excellent at I feel very confident in my astrological knowledge, my tarot knowledge, my internet knowledge, where it's gotten a lot better. I've needed help with that. I've needed people to show me different things, like how to clip shorts. And actually, I just sent my person to the beach. So maybe I'll figure this out. Maybe I'll wait. But you see, now I'm in an opposition where here we are. And this opposition too maybe could bring up something. This could bring up limitations for people. Again, Venus, because Venus is in fall in Virgo. She has a harder time here. She has to work a lot harder. She does have this thing she loves, but she also there's a practicalness. She thinks like, well, I have this dream, but maybe I don't know if I can do it. You could become your own worst enemy here with Saturn in this opposition in Pisces. You could there could be that self-doubt. And this could be where, again, maybe talking with someone about this to help you get out of that funk where it's like, no, you excuse me, you may have to do this and do that and do that. And yeah, that's kind of tough. You got to do this uphill thing, but in the long run, it's going to be totally worth it. When things are more locked in, you'll be happy that you had that focus in this mutable energy so that you can get this thing done. Because then we have the next transit at 2:46 p.m., Jupiter is going to be forming that square with Saturn at 17 degrees and oh, no, I guess I can't. I was like, that can't be right. But yes, that can be right. At 17 degrees and 28 minutes, I was like, wait, how did Saturn go backwards? Because he's retrograde. You see my expertise here. And yes, that's Jupiter's in Pisces and Saturn is, no, he's not. Jupiter's in Gemini. Yeah, I promise I'm an expert. And Saturn is in Pisces. Love that Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is in my first house, so it's affecting my body. It's affecting my speech. So there it is. But with this, though, Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini. Just like how, well, it's actually a little bit worse than what Venus is in. This is more so that, Jupiter's in just a sign that he just doesn't do well. He's still going to do big papa things. He's still going to be abundant, but it's just not as effective as he can be. There's kind of a duality to that. Jupiter can sometimes promise a lot of abundance, but I feel in Gemini, there's a dual side to that where it's like, yeah, you can talk a big game, but can you actually do that? This could be where you know, a great example of this would be there was my partner was a part of this group, and there were these it's an entrepreneurial group, and there's this one guy, they're all trying to get their businesses start up and things, and got all these big dreams. And there's this guy that was doing the spiritual service, and he ended up getting a whole bunch of clients. And you would think like, oh yeah, buddy, like everyone was like, yeah, bro, like congratulations. Like, I mean, it was like a bunch of clients. He's like, I mean, like booked for months. And it was just like, oh my gosh, that's great. But then, he started the service. He said he was ready for this thing, but then he's like, yeah, it should be great, but I'm actually like severely overwhelmed. Like he's like, I'm almost to the point like I could throw up. Like it's just like I don't know how to set these things up. I need employees. I need this. I need like a whole team. And it was just it became a whole thing. And so what I feel can happen in this is that that's not to say that you're going to just be overwhelmed and things, but it could just show us where we don't want to try to force something along, to make sure that you're ready for something. That sometimes when we run into a roadblock, it's big, what? Okay, I'm hit this wall. Is there something that I'm not considering? Is there something that I'm not ready for? Because when the abundance comes, it's coming ready or not. And so this could be where you can kind of can appreciate, maybe for some, depending on where this is happening in your chart, this could be where you're noticing maybe a constriction in abundance, maybe a constriction in flow. But again, it might be something in the short term. This gave you a moment to get things in order so that you can do this, and that, to tidy up some things, to tie up some loose ends, so that your energy is freed up so that you can focus on this other thing that's coming here. Because even though this is a square that's going on, Saturn is in the house that Jupiter rules traditionally, Pisces. So I feel like Saturn is not just going to rip down the wallpaper and just trash Jupiter's house. They're even in Daysect, Jupiter and Saturn are buds. They work together. So what I feel could happen in this is just Saturn's going to show you where, hey, maybe you don't want to purchase this extra plot of land. Maybe make sure you can handle the current plot of land that you have, your current responsibilities. You could be dreaming really big. And because I think Saturn retrograde, again, can be very tricky. It can get you thinking that like, oh, I can do this, especially when he's retrograde. He kind of removes the boundaries. It's just like, okay, you think you do that? All right, Bill, let's see. Oh yeah, you want to do that? Oh, and do that. Saturn's, again, he's not one that's going to make you, he doesn't like that immediate gratification. No, he wants you to rack up like a bunch of debt. He wants you to rack it up. He wants an inheritance. That's what Saturn wants. So that's what he wants for you, whether that's you setting up an inheritance for you or you setting up one for him. That's how we can work with Saturn. It's just to plan ahead, to look thoroughly, to slow down, to think twice. Like, am I ready to grow in this area? Like, where is this? Because this is a weaker part of the chart where, maybe you're looking to grow. This is happening for me in my 11th house. And I've been in this state of, working with the house of like visions and friends and things. And I've noticed where I can work more on both, where I can be a little bit bigger. And this is something that I've had to expand upon. I've had to get more active on social media. I'm not a big fan, but if I want to keep in touch with people, that's what I've had to sacrifice some things, and it's just like, it's not all about me. And honestly, I've come to enjoy some certain things. Facebook Messenger is my jam. I'm a pro on that. But this could be, this is an interesting square that I feel is happening right now. But I do feel when Jupiter and Saturn are coming together, there's going to be a lot of this sort of like contracting and expanding. And so it's like when you're in right now, I feel that it's like right now, this feels more like an expansion. So you want to be mindful. It may not seem like it. But I feel like where you're putting, how we started off this transit, that Mars energy, where you're putting your energy to stuff, that Gemini energy, just be mindful of consider both sides of things. What if I make this decision, what is that going to mean? What are the consequences? Not even whether it's going to be good or bad. What are the consequences baseline? And how do you feel about that? I feel like if we can even get to, because sometimes good and bad, because sometimes like what we may think is bad in that moment may actually work for our favor later. So just look at what are the consequences of your actions, and can you live with that? And are you going to be able to make right with that? Or do you need to take a step back, because when Jupiter's retrograde and Saturn's direct, then I feel the contraction is going to be very different. It's going to be like, oh, you made this choice, and then bam, and it's like, okay, Saturn's going to make you double down on that. And again, that's not a place to put it where you're scared. But it's just to get you in a place like, okay, you know what, maybe I need to, this would be, I'd say, I used to be a smoker. This would be, I'd advise, think the smoker. Maybe think about looking into some alternative means to kind of wean yourself. Like, it's a process. I feel like, that Venus opposition Saturn, you may have to do something that's not the funnest. Like I was saying, withdrawal sucks. I'm no stranger to that. Withdrawal sucks. But when you get over that hump, and then there's some distance between it, it gets a lot easier. But it's just getting through that hump. That hump is heavy, and then you're fine. Then you're fine. But it's fine. You have to find things to focus your mind in the meantime, because otherwise you're just fixate on it, and it's aggressive. So that's what I feel. This is just, as long as you're mindful there, that's how we can work with this. I remember one last little thing. Pay attention to signs, as far as like you'll know when something's not working for you, where something's not applying to your future, in a sense. I feel the Saturn in Pisces is going to give soft warnings at first. Again, I feel Saturn retrograde, Saturn's weaker when the planets are weaker when they're retrograde. So where I know sometimes when you think of retrograde Saturn, it's like, oh no, Saturn's more serious. I'd go to argue that Saturn, you don't know what Saturn. I feel like he could give you that illusion of just like, oh, you feel like, oh yeah, I could do that, I'm invincible, and then Saturn's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You got to plan just like everybody else. You got to put your genes. Like it's a very humbling energy. But Saturn can also can teach you that less can be more. You can make less stretch a long way. So it makes you resourceful. It makes you responsible. So when you get really big abundance, you have a legacy. You have an inheritance, and then you're really reaping the benefits of your hard work. So that's what I feel can really kind of go down with this energy. So I hope that made this energy just more approachable, made it seem less kind of like, and more sort of like just more empowering. This can be a very empowering time, but we gotta be real with ourselves, with whatever that means, and know that whatever that realness is, again, it's not going to be where you're just fixed on that forever. Like you're going to put in some work, and then things are going to change, and it'll be for your benefit. So just some things to meditate on. But until next time, and again, if you're curious about about booking reading with me and anything along those lines, definitely check down in the description box below. All my services are down there. And also, if you just want to work with the moon just kind of on a general basis like this, I keep track of the lunar cycles on my other channel, the Chariot and Friends. It's a less formal group than I would in my kind of intimate ones, where you get to answer, like kind of ask questions and get some clarifiers, look at different points and things. So, but yeah, come over there if you happen to have any Cancer in your placements, or just want to sync up with the moon. She loves that. But until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one later.